Emma let out a hearty laugh as I filled her wine glass. It wasn't a soft titter or a distracted snicker, but a bold, unrestrained burst that drew a quick glance from the couple nearby. She didn't seem to care. Her eyes were glued to her phone as if it held the key to the universe. We were halfway through our meal, raw salmon and charred artichokes, and she hadn't looked at me once since we took our seats. A decade ago, we'd come to this same restaurant fresh off her honeymoon. Back then, she wore heels that made her teeter on the boardwalk and a sundress I can still picture vividly. She insisted the waiter snap 3 photos until her hair looked just right, free of that annoying wave. We giggled, overate, and swayed together in the parking lot to a violinist's fading tune. Tonight, she sported beige sneakers and kept her AirPods in until the starters arrived. No effort to conceal them. I watched her tap away at her screen between bites of bruschetta as if she were scrolling job listings instead of celebrating our anniversary. Her phone glowed again. She didn't bother hiding it. I saw the name, Ethan. Not a vague work or Sarah, just Ethan, plain as day in bold font, unapologetic. Here's the twist. She glanced up for a fleeting moment as if her laugh's timing was too perfect and said, "He's always had a knack for cracking me up." Then she dove back into texting, nibbling, and grinning at whatever memory Ethan was serving her. I didn't react, didn't even blink. I just topped off her glass and gazed at the bay where a lone sailboat glided with the tide. The air felt chilly. A draft slipped through the terrace doors behind me, but it matched the vibe perfectly. She asked if they still carried her favorite Cabernet. The waiter confirmed they had 1 bottle left. She beamed like it was destiny. I stayed quiet, nodding. As she admired the wine label and snapped a photo naturally, she didn't notice I hadn't touched my drink. My hand rested on the goblet's base, slowly turning it, watching condensation droplets chase each other down the glass. She didn't ask about my day. Didn't mention the dog I walked before dinner. Didn't comment on the blazer I wore, the same one from our wedding reception, because she wasn't truly present. Her body sat across from me, styled like a mannequin with heavy makeup and little authenticity. But her mind? That was miles away, maybe just across town, wherever Ethan was tonight. And that name, Ethan. Not Jake, not even Jacob. Ethan. It practically screamed Ivy League condo vibes. I took a bite of the duck confit, now lukewarm, and chewed it like it was sawdust. She snapped another wine photo, this time with the candles in the background. For a moment, her camera caught me in the frame's edge. I saw her crop me out. The irony didn't slam me like a fist. It cut like a scalpel, sharp, icy, predictable. Let's be real, I wasn't stunned. I wasn't even wounded. That phase was long gone. There's a point when you realize you're no longer a player in your own marriage. You're just scenery, a backdrop for someone else's show. She wanted this dinner to tell her friends she made an effort to post the wine, the candles, the seafood tower, and caption it, "Gave it a shot." I smiled when the waiter brought the second bottle. She was texting again, her screen glowing like a tiny beacon of betrayal in the center of our table. Yet I just nodded, folded my napkin neatly, and waited. This wasn't a dinner anymore. It wasn't an anniversary. It was a wake, and she didn't even know she was the centerpiece. She propped her phone against her water glass like it was her real date. Her thumb danced in quick, giddy swipes across the screen. The way her eyes twinkled, soft and private, wasn't for me. I hadn't seen that spark in years. I didn't miss it until I saw it aimed at someone else. Ethan. The name seared into my brain when I glimpsed it bright white on a dark screen, like a warning flare before a shipwreck. No attempt to hide it. No sneaky emoji or fake contact name like work or old pal. Just Ethan, blatant, bold. There was almost a twisted respect for her nerve. I remember when she used to grin like that over my texts. Now she smiled while typing to him, probably using phrases she figured I'd never notice or care to unravel. She leaned back, tugged her cardigan tighter, and chuckled softly, saying he's always known how to get a laugh out of me, like it was a casual remark. Like she hadn't just slid a knife between my ribs with her fork. I checked my watch. Right on schedule. Here's the thing about humiliation, it doesn't hit like a lightning bolt, not at first. It creeps in drop by drop. It's in the waiter's glance from her to me and back, because even strangers sense the disconnect. It's in the silence between her words, how her voice lifts for someone on her phone but flattens when she talks to me. It's when your anniversary becomes a footnote to her thrill over a guy who should have been ancient history. I let her have her moment. Let her glow. She thought she was running the show, that I was too slow, too tame, too clueless to see that my silence meant surrender. She didn't know I'd already made 2 moves. 2 weeks back, I'd subscribed to monitoring software through her family plan. She'd okayed it a year ago for our niece's stalker issue and forgot I still had access. Her mistake. Every text, every photo, every late night, can't sleep either, chat was copied, saved, sent to me, organized. And Ethan? He was smooth, I'll admit. His messages dripped with charm, old memories, just enough flirtation to feel naughty without going too far. Until he did. Until the night she sent him a mirror selfie in the robe I got her 5 Christmases ago, captioned, "Still works." Barely. I kept that one. Not for a lawyer, for leverage. Timing is everything. Like tonight. The candle flickered, casting warm shadows. She asked if I recalled the waiter's name from our last visit. I said no. She didn't either. Small talk. Safe. Her phone buzzed again. This time, she tilted the screen slightly away as if that changed anything. I nodded, observed, sipped my wine, and let my gaze drift to the chandelier overhead. Its glass pendant swayed as the heater hummed on. She didn't sense the shift in the air. She didn't notice much unless it pinged her phone. That was fine. I'd planned it that way. Truth is, guys like me don't explode. We don't smash dishes or storm out cursing. We endure. We analyze. We record. And when we act, it's precise. She asked if I wanted dessert. I said I'd hold off. She smiled, almost sympathetic, like she thought I was clinging to some fantasy. She didn't know I was holding something else. Something calculated, intentional, cloaked in calm. I wasn't the one eating the final meal. She was. She just hadn't realized it yet. It was a Tuesday when I brought it up. I remember because rain was falling and the sunroom roof was leaking again, dripping onto the tiles like a ticking clock of neglect. I stood by the window, coffee mug in hand, watching the water pool. She was folding laundry, mostly my shirts, when I said offhandedly, "Anniversary's coming. Want to make it special this year?" She didn't look up, didn't hesitate. Just mumbled, "Let's keep it low-key." Low-key. Like our marriage was now a discount flight. No extras, no perks, just enough to get by. She tossed a pair of socks into the drawer and kept going like I'd asked if we needed eggs. I nodded and said, "Cool," with the same even tone I use for bank clerks or servers who mix up orders. Polite, steady, not worth the fight. But inside, that dismissal was a spark. Not because I wanted romance, that was long gone, sunk. It was how easily she brushed off the one day tied to a real memory. The way she didn't even fake caring. That shrug was her saying, "I'm done pretending for you." So I went to my office that night. Not the one she thinks I use for fixing old tech, but the real one behind the hidden basement wall she never visits. The one with a lock she's never questioned. First, I reached out to a firm, a low profile, upscale, discreet. You don't find them online. You find them when you mean business. They hooked me up with weekly reports of her cloud data, texts, photos, location pings, all pulled from our family plan, the one she wanted to keep to save a buck. Then the money. I called Mark, my estate lawyer for 2 decades. We met at the golf course she thinks I hit every Thursday. We played a few holes, then went over a trust overhaul in the clubhouse, pretending to bicker about clubs. In 2 weeks, I'd split our joint accounts cleanly, funneled my assets into an irrevocable trust that left her name off. I didn't cancel her cards. I just set a limit low enough to embarrass but not alarm, just enough to see her squirm when a purchase failed in front of someone important. Then the evidence, receipts, notarized forms, signatures in blue ink, not black, all tucked in a manila folder in my gun safe under my dad's will papers. No gun, just facts. Clear, tidy, ready? And all the while, I played my part. I asked about her colleagues. She griped about Lisa's breakup with a smirk. I asked about her yoga classes. She said she might skip Thursday to work remotely. I smiled, nodded, poured her coffee. Meanwhile, Thursday's yoga was a trip to the downtown Marriott where Ethan just happened to check in under a rewards account still tied to his old email, one I'd found in her cloud backup buried among saved passwords and verification codes. Their digital tracks were messy, overlapping, like she thought I'd never bother to look, like I was a tamed pet who'd stopped hunting. She didn't spot the camera, just a small one, lobby angle tilted low. Caught her brushing his jacket collar while laughing against his chest. I watched that clip a dozen times, not because it stung, but because it didn't. That's when I knew I'd changed. The part of me that once hoped she'd pick me had gone silent, not gone, just done pleading. So I planned. Not for a fight, that's for rookies. I planned for an end, for clarity, for a finish she wouldn't see coming. She thought I was golfing. I was arming myself with every tool I'd need. She was sipping her wine when she sent it, left hand on the glass, right thumb flitting over the screen like she was crafting a masterpiece of quiet betrayal. She didn't even glance up. The smirk came first, that sly, one-sided curl she used to save for our inside jokes. Now it was for someone else. Someone who wasn't across from her in a seaside restaurant wearing a crisp blazer and a blank stare. I watched her tilt the phone just so and lift it slightly. Snap. She'd taken a picture of me pouring her wine. I could picture it, a blurry shot of a guy doing what husbands do, pour, serve, comply. Framed low to cut off my face. I wasn't the focus. I was a prop, a pathetic outline of the guy who still tries. Her phone pinged twice in reply. My pocket buzzed once. I pulled out my phone and checked the secure inbox I'd set up with the firm. A new sync from her cloud. Subject, he's still at it. Sad. Below it, the photo, same angle, same glass, same moment, captured forever. I stared at it, not for long, just enough to grasp the absurdity. I was being turned into a joke in real time by the woman who once swore we'd grow old together, reduced to a punchline for a guy who hadn't earned her loyalty but somehow claimed her laughter with a few late-night texts and shared memories. I tucked my phone back into my pocket and flashed a faint smile, not out of amusement or shock, but because that message was the last piece of the puzzle clicking into place. The entire evening had been meticulously planned, every detail accounted for. I'd booked the table a week earlier, slipped the maitre d' a generous tip for a secluded spot, and handed the waiter a sealed envelope that afternoon. The letter was secure, the drive was prepped, the wine was her go-to. Everything was staged to look perfectly ordinary. And now this. It was flawless. Emma didn't realize that every tap on her phone was building my case. Each smirk she aimed at her screen tightened the net around her. I didn't need to point fingers, plead, or raise my voice. I had the text, the timestamp, the photo, and that grin. Man, that grin. It was like watching someone craft their own downfall and garnish it with flowers. She leaned forward, still radiant from whatever Ethan had replied, and said, "You're awfully quiet tonight." Just taking it all in. I stayed silent. She arched an eyebrow, probably thinking she still had me on a leash, that I was tamed, maybe wary, maybe heartbroken, that she could toss me a scrap of attention later and I'd lap it up. She had no clue. Truth is, I wasn't quiet because I was shattered. I was quiet because I was done. I'd already cut myself loose, peeled her out of my plans like a faded sticker. My heart wasn't at this table. It wasn't even in this restaurant. It was locked away with the files, the footage, and my lawyer's contact already saved. She flicked her eyes back to her phone, firing off another message, probably something witty, maybe another snapshot, maybe a cheeky emoji to twist the knife, but there was no knife left to twist. There was just the steady calm of a man who'd closed the book and was already drafting the final lines. I caught the waiter's eye with a subtle nod as she scrolled through her texts for the third time, oblivious. He got it right away. This wasn't his first show. In his 30s, polished with a keen gaze, he glided to our table like an actor hitting his mark. One hand behind his back, the other presenting the folded check atop a small, plain cream envelope. No branding, no sender, just her name in neat cursive, Emily Harper. "This arrived for you earlier, ma'am," he said, setting it by her plate like it was a wine list. She blinked. "For me." He gave a courteous smile. "Yes, ma'am. They said it was urgent." She shot me a puzzled look. I offered a gentle, almost paternal shrug, the kind that says, could be from the kids. Could be a gift. Could be nothing. She dabbed her hands on her napkin, suddenly uneasy, and tore open the envelope. I watched her closely now. There's something gripping about seeing deception unravel in real time. The way the expression shifts, confusion sets in, pupils widen, a small crease forms on the forehead, the lips quiver slightly. Then the plunge. Line 3. That's always where it hits. Line 1 was just her name, Emily Harper. Line 2, a notice of trust restructuring dated 2 weeks back. Line 3, effective immediately, your status as co-beneficiary has been terminated for all joint accounts, insurance policies, and investment portfolios. That's when her face paled and she hadn't even noticed the USB yet. It was taped to the letter's underside, a sleek black square with my handwriting, for your reference. She looked at me, not furious, not wounded, just dazed, like a deer staring at headlights it didn't expect. "What's this?" she asked, her voice suddenly fragile. "Just a little project I've been tinkering with," I said, calmly folding my napkin beside my plate. "Figured I'd give you a heads up." Her mouth opened, then closed. She scanned the letter again, reading faster, the legal terms sinking in, phrases like irrevocable division of financial assets, termination of access, redistribution of marital property. Then the footnote, all changes executed under legal counsel, signed, notarized, and effective. Emily's hand shook as she reached for the USB. She hadn't mentioned Ethan's name once tonight. Didn't have to. He was woven into that envelope, lurking in the subtext, humming through the weight of her own overconfidence. She looked like she was choking on air. Her jaw twitched. Her tongue flicked out to moisten her lips. "You went through I safeguarded what's mine," I cut in, voice level. That stopped her cold. That's what this was, not vengeance, not fury, just taking back what was rightfully mine. A quiet reclaiming of self-respect from a woman who'd treated it like white noise. I'd watched her sideline me, diminish me, edit me out of her frame, and now I was editing her out of the life she thought she still controlled. She glanced around, suddenly aware of the other diners, regular folks, chatting, laughing, living in worlds where anniversaries weren't battlegrounds. I took a slow sip of water. "You're drawing attention," I said, almost gently. That froze her, caught between panic and composure, because now she had to choose, fall apart in public or hold it together and crumble later, alone. She picked silence. Wise move. The USB quivered in her grip and she slid it under her napkin. Like it might scorch the table. But her eyes stayed glued to the letter, widening with every line, every clause, every dawning truth. The house, the retirement fund, the credit cards, the savings gone, finalized, filed, enforced. I'd waited for the check to drop so I could present her with the real bill. And what she owed wasn't cash. It was the realization that her web of secrets had just imploded without a single loud word. That's how you wage a mind game. And I didn't even raise my tone. Her hands trembled now, not wildly, just enough for the letter to flutter softly against the tablecloth. It was almost poetic watching the paper turn on her the way she'd turned on me. She reread the first point slowly, reduction of joint credit line to zero balance. It didn't sink in at first. You could see her brain scrambling to make it a fluke, a mix-up, surely not deliberate. Then the second, verification of trust reconfiguration with your beneficiary rights rescinded. She blinked hard, reading it again. Then her eyes drifted to the page's bottom. Her lips moved silently, mouthing it. Attached file, anniversary_surprise.mp4. She stopped cold. Her gaze snapped to me like she'd just spotted the twist in a thriller. I was mid-sip of water, not wine. No need to blur the clarity. You'll want to check that before dessert, I said, setting my glass down with the weight of a final verdict. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came, no defense, no excuse, no act, just silence and that frantic pulse in her neck like her body was racing to catch up to a reality her mind had dodged. She slid the USB from under the napkin, turning it in her fingers like it might reveal its secrets if she held it just so. Is this a prank? She finally asked. If it is, I said, you set up the joke. The color drained from her face fast. She sat up straighter, poring over the letter again, hoping the words might shift if she stared long enough. But legal language doesn't budge. It just spells things out. And every line she'd skimmed, every phrase she'd glossed over was now a spotlight in the dark. She'd spent months weaving lies. I'd spent weeks carving out exits. She reached for her wine glass, but her hand missed it by an inch. She adjusted and took a sip as if the Cabernet could piece together how her world had just split open. She muttered something faint, maybe a swear, maybe a plea, maybe Ethan's name. I didn't care. I wasn't here for her thoughts. I was here for an ending. She began, then faltered. The confidence had vanished. The vibe had shifted. This wasn't the woman who'd flirted with her ex across the table an hour ago. This was someone trapped. I'm curious what you'll make of the finale, I said, dabbing my mouth with my napkin. Took me a bit to nail the score. She stared. So I leaned in just a touch and added, music matters. Especially for the part where you see yourself crash. That hit hard. Her jaw tightened. Her breathing grew shallow. Her eyes widened. The panic was taking root now, not from the finances, not from the accounts, but from anniversary_surprise.mp4. Because deep down, she knew what it held. She knew Ethan's name wasn't as hidden as she thought. She knew those hotel lobbies had cameras. She knew what she'd said, what she'd worn, how she'd laughed when she thought no one was watching. I was watching. She stared at the USB again. A tiny piece of plastic and truths, but her hand wouldn't grip it like it weighed a ton. Why would you do this? She tried. No, I cut in quietly. You knew exactly what you were doing. You just thought I wouldn't. Her mouth opened, then closed. She turned her gaze to the windows like freedom might be out there if she looked hard enough. But there's no escaping the moment you realize you're no longer writing the story. You're just the evidence, the case, the display. And dessert still hadn't arrived. She waited until midnight. Maybe she thought the dark would cushion the blow. Maybe she wanted the house still, no one to see. Maybe she needed solitude to pretend she could still control the damage. She shouldn't have waited. She plugged the USB into her laptop's side like it might snap at her. The screen blinked, then a folder popped up. One file, one line, anniversary_surprise.mp4. No lock, no code, just a double click between her and everything I'd already watched a dozen times. Emily froze, then clicked. The video opened with silence, followed by a gradual fade in. White text on a black screen, you always said truth was a treasure. Then her messages appeared. Not as chat bubbles, but one at a time, centered, black font on a harsh white backdrop, each line stark like a news ticker, still using that cologne you loved. He doesn't even care. It's like I'm married to a shadow. He poured my wine and I wanted to yell. I can't stand how he exhales when he's worn out. A pause. Then my voice, steady, clear, recorded in a studio for precision. I'd hired a pro for this. You claimed honesty was your highest value, so I'm returning it. Every word, every deception, every moment you thought I didn't see. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't blink. She sat rigid, unmoving. You texted Ethan while I was in the ER for chest pain. You wrote, quote, he's always dramatic about his heart. Maybe it's real this time. I'd miss the dog more. Another pause. The screen shifted. Grainy hotel lobby footage, time-stamped. She enters from the left. Work trip. Rolling a suitcase. Laughing. Ethan trails behind. His hand grazes her lower back. She leans closer. The desk clerk hands over keycards, no ID check. She flashes that smile, the one she used to save for our special nights. The frame froze, then zoomed in. My voice again, April 22nd. The day you said your boss kept you late and your phone would be off. You blamed the hotel's bad Wi-Fi. Guess you didn't know the lobby camera had a better signal. The elevator doors slide shut. Her smile lingers a beat longer than Ethan's. Then a black screen, followed by white text. You never asked for mercy, so I didn't grant any. Emily stood, pacing tightly, arms folded. She paused the video, restarted it, rewound, replayed the hotel clip twice. By the third round, she wasn't pacing. She sank into the chair, gripping its edges like the footage might swallow her whole. Then the final scene, just me on the balcony of the same restaurant where it all unraveled. Sunset glowing behind me, breeze tugging at my coat. The camera was rock steady, tripod preset from when I practiced this until it felt numb. I stared straight into the lens. Happy anniversary, Emily. You're on your own now. No more facades. No more lies. No more us. A faint click like a lock snapping shut. The screen went dark. She stared. The silence that followed wasn't dramatic. It was hollow, clinical, the laptop fan whirring like a machine detached from a flatlined patient. She grabbed her phone, opened her texts, typed something to Ethan, erased it, typed again, erased again. Her world wasn't shattered, it was cataloged, preserved in digital stone, tagged and stored under irreversible choices. She tried to breathe evenly, but her chest hitched, a subtle, shaky panic that didn't spill into tears, just quivers. Like her body sensed a loss but couldn't decide whether to crumble or wail. She yanked out the USB and glared at it like it might bite. Then her eyes swept the house, the kitchen counter, the wine glasses, the framed photo of us in Santorini. She was the only one smiling in that picture. She hadn't noticed then, but she did now because now she saw how it looked from the outside. And now there was no inside left to hide in. The panic crept in quietly, a knot in her chest when the first call went wrong. Emily dialed the bank's support line, expecting the usual wait music, a small hassle. Instead, the agent delivered a line she'd never heard. I'm sorry, ma'am. Your name's no longer on this account. We'd need to speak with the primary holder for further details. She faltered, but I've been on it for 20 years. Yes, ma'am. The update was finalized last Wednesday. Anything else I can assist with? She ended the call mid-sentence. Next, the credit card. She opened her laptop and logged into the business expense portal. She'd charged a few things recently, flowers for her cousin's birthday, lunch with Lisa, maybe a pair of shoes. She checked the balance. 0. Transaction log empty. Access blocked. She tried a test purchase on her phone, a rideshare to the office denied. Then a coffee shop top-up denied. Her palms grew clammy. She called the card issuer directly. There's got to be an error, she said, forcing calm. My card's not working and are you Ms. Emily Harper? Yes. I'm sorry. As of last Friday, this card's been locked under account security protocol. A revalidation order's in place. The primary holder has barred further charges pending legal review. Legal review? She echoed. From who? A pause. Then, cautiously, Mr. Daniel Harper, ma'am. For the first time in her adult life, she went silent on a call. No follow-up, just a click and a blank stare at the screen, like it might flicker and rewrite itself. She dialed her lawyer, Tom. Tom, what's happening? A heavy sigh, not shocked, just weary. Emily, I got a heads up last week. Daniel's lawyer filed for complete asset separation plus a restriction on shared accounts and property claims. You weren't named as a respondent. It's already in effect. You should have called me earlier. No one told me. They didn't have to. He filed under fiduciary autonomy, citing suspected financial misconduct. It's watertight. Her grip on the phone slipped. It was a flawless strike, silent, precise, phased. She hadn't just been cut off. She'd been erased. Still clutching at straws, she grabbed her purse and sped to the house. Their house. The one with the brick path she'd chosen, the succulents by the porch, the wind chimes she called tacky but secretly loved. She parked crooked, half on the grass, slammed the car door, raced to the garage keypad, punched in the code. Red light. She tried again, deliberate. Red. She stared at the digits like she'd mistyped, like the system might still recognize her. One last attempt. Red. The lock flashed thrice, then went dead. She bolted to the front door, jiggled the handle, hit the bell, pounded the frame. Silence. She opened the security app on her phone. Blank. No devices detected. She tried the joint home account login. Rejected. She called the realtor friend who'd helped them buy the place. Maybe there was a paper trail. Emily, your name's off the deed, the friend said softly. Title was transferred last Friday. Trust only. It's sealed. No, she breathed. That can't be. I'm looking at the filing. It's notarized. I can email you a copy if you need. Emily didn't answer. The line went quiet. Finally, the realtor murmured, I'm sorry, and hung up. She sank onto the front steps, her own steps, like a tourist at a relic of her past. Even the neighbors were strangers now. A young couple with a toddler strolled by, offering a curt nod. They didn't know her, didn't stop, didn't care. The wind chimes clinked once, tauntingly. Through the frosted glass, she could just make out the faint outline of the entry table where she used to keep Christmas cards and Daniel's tie clips. Now bare. No trace of her. No sound, no warmth, just a house that had already shed her presence. She wasn't just locked out. She was banished, legally, financially, emotionally. Her exile was already underway. And the door? It hadn't just closed. It had vanished. She texted first, a single line, no punctuation, can we meet? I stared at it for nearly a minute, not because I was unsure, but because I wanted to feel nothing before answering. I replied, Tuesday, 9 a.m. Murphy's, same spot we met. She didn't push back. When I arrived, the place was unchanged. Same red brick, same squeaky hinge, same chalkboard menu stuck in time. 25 years ago, she'd sat by the window, skimming a sociology book and sipping an overly sweet caramel latte. She spilled it on her notes. I offered a napkin. She smiled. I stayed. Today, I took the same table alone. Ordered a black coffee, no cream, no sugar, just heat and focus. She showed up 15 minutes late. No makeup, eyes puffy, hair in a messy bun that screamed, I haven't slept and I'm past caring who notices. Good. Let her feel something raw. She paused before sitting like she wasn't sure the seat was still hers. It wasn't. I didn't stand. I didn't smile. I didn't ask how she was. She eased into the chair, eyes down. I never meant for this, she said softly, barely cutting through the espresso machine's hum. I stirred my coffee deliberately, letting the spoon tap the mug's edge in a slow rhythm. I know, I said. You wanted someone else. Now you're free to go after him. That stopped her. No venom in my tone, no bite, just a flat calm that hit harder than any jab, like the quiet after a wreck when you're breathing, but the silence says it's already done. She stared at her hands. No rings now. No bracelets, just a faint tan line where her watch used to sit. Daniel, please? I stood before she could finish, reached into my jacket, and set a manila folder gently between us. She eyed it like it might detonate. It's all there, I said. Signed, notarized, executed. Her lips parted, but I cut in. No alimony. No assets, no appeals. Clause 8 is worth a look. It spells out your lack of claim to past assets. Oh, and there's a non-disparagement clause. So Ethan better keep his ex-posts to himself. That stung more than the folder. She flushed, not from guilt, from being exposed. You tracked, I documented. I fixed. Big difference. She reached for the folder with shaky fingers, opened it. I watched her eyes race over the text. The true weight of legal finality isn't in bold print. It's in the quiet language of permanent things. I didn't think you'd, she whispered. Be capable, I finished for her. That was your mistake. You took quiet for weakness. Her jaw clenched, not defiance, just a reflex of pride under strain. Daniel, I was lonely, so you erased me, I said, standing taller. Now you're the one erased. She gripped the folder tighter, like it could undo something. It couldn't. I dropped a 20 on the table, more than enough for a coffee I wasn't going to finish. Before walking away, I leaned in just enough for her to catch the finality in my breath. I'll always remember this place, I said. It's where I met you. Pause. And now it's where I walked away. I stepped into the sunlight, a crisp breeze nipping at my collar. Behind me, the door's bell jingled once. She didn't follow because she knew. The rest of the story wasn't hers to join. She read it once, lips twitching silently. Then again, faster, like a second pass might rewrite irrevocable or terminated. It didn't. The wine glass tipped first, not a grand gesture, just a frantic elbow knocking the base. The stem teetered, then fell. Red bled across the tablecloth like ink on a contract, seeping toward the letter she'd tried to ignore. Her breath caught, a sharp, small gasp she couldn't stifle. It broke her facade wide open. She stood suddenly, chair screeching back. Cutlery rattled on nearby tables. Heads turned. She didn't care. Clutching the letter USB still in her fist like a talisman, she staggered toward the exit like someone escaping a blaze. Her flats, simple, practical, the kind she used to scoff at, clacked too loudly on the wood floor. Her hand pressed to her lips. But her face? Not tears, not fury. It was worse, recognition, the searing, gut-punch clarity that everything she'd schemed had unfolded in a glass house. And I'd recorded every fracture. She didn't look back, didn't pause to apologize, didn't try to cling to a shred of poise. She just fled through the doors, past the hostess, through the warm glow of a restaurant full of people pretending not to stare. I didn't turn. I didn't revel. I just caught her reflection in the window across from me, a fleeting blur of panic and motion warped by glass and candlelight. The waiter came back. Young, professional, sharp enough to sense the weight of what had just gone down, but trained to stay neutral. He stood quietly, glancing at the spilled wine, the quivering napkin, the empty seat. "Anything else, sir?" he asked, voice low. I looked at the door. The air still stirred faintly where she'd been. The candle by her plate flickered harder now, like it knew its role was done. Then I turned to him. "Now," I said, with a calm so deep it felt like shedding stone, "I'll have dessert." He nodded and slipped away. I leaned back, letting the restaurant sound swell again. Chuckles from the bar booth, forks clinking on plates, a piano track looping something soft and faintly ironic. I lifted my wine glass, still untouched, and took a slow, deliberate sip. It tasted sharper now, not because it was better, but because I was.